Hello everyone, welcome to the channel. In this channel, we will talk about IELTS writing correction. We will look at sample answers for IELTS Task 1 and 2, and we will analyze them to see what we can do better. It doesn't mean that the current answers are wrong. No, we will just look at ways of improving these answers. A little about me. I am a former English teacher at university level. I hold the CELTA certificate, which is the certificate in English language teaching to adults. I have administered many exams over the course of my career, and the purpose of this video is to make it easier for you to be successful in your exams. About 5 years ago, I took IELTS, the academic module, and I achieved an overall band score of 8.5, broken down as follows: 9 for listening, 8 for speaking, 8.5 for reading, and 7.5 for writing. I think writing is the most difficult skill to master in any language, and that's why we will focus on improving your writing. I will divide this video in 4 sections. Section 1, Grading Criteria. How is your writing exam marked? What is important? What do examiners look at? Section 2, Tips. Section 3, we will look at the structure of a writing task. And finally, in section 4, we will analyze a model answer for writing task 1, the academic module. Okay, so let's get started. Your writing exam is marked by 2 to 4 examiners, 2, 3 or 4, it depends. And the criteria are available on the British Council website. They are not a secret. You can look at them, and I have included the link to the British Council website where you can see what criteria are used to grade your writing exam. The first criterion is task achievement. What does it mean? It's about one thing. Have you answered the question? To achieve a band 9, you need to meet all requirements of the task. This is, you need to have the correct number of words, to include the relevant information in task 1. For task 2, you should write about the topic and use the correct type of essay structure. That was the task achievement criterion, briefly. The next criterion is coherence and cohesion. Is the flow of your writing logical? Is it easy for the examiner to understand the message? Do you use paragraphs, or are they well organized? The next grading criterion is a lexical resource. What kind of words do you use? Do you have full flexibility and use a wide range of vocabulary accurately? Finally, the examiner will look at the grammatical range and accuracy of structures you use in your writing. The more varied the grammar you use and the more accurate, the higher your mark. But don't forget about punctuation. It's also graded and important. And now let me share a few tips for your IELTS exam. The first tip is don't make it too complicated. If you are not sure how to write a complicated sentence, then write a simple sentence that is accurate. For task 1, use the information from the graph or diagram. Make sure you interpret this information correctly. You will see samples further in the video. For task 2, remember to write on topic, about the topic, and use the appropriate essay structure. Remember to read and analyze as many samples of good essays as you can. And finally, watch these videos to understand what kind of errors are made and how to correct them. In this video, we will look at this task. Please take a moment to read and understand the task. The first thing we will do when we see the task in the exam is to try and understand what is the task about. Maybe you don't know some words, maybe you don't know the word leisure. But if you look at the information in the diagrams, you can see things like basketball, soccer, listening to music. So is that something that children do in school time or in their free time? We can understand that this is something, activities that children do in their free time, their spare time. Now I will show you a structure for writing task 1 that can help you answer any question in the IELTS exam. In the first sentence, you will just write what you see. You can paraphrase if possible. You can start like this. The graph shows, the pie chart represents. This is always a good start. Just say what you see. Next, you will give an overview of the graph or diagram, and you will state the main trends or processes. You can always start with the word overall. In this case, we can follow with the most popular activity. For other tasks, you can say the most popular trend was, and so on. Next, we will write a body paragraph where we will give specific examples with information from the diagram. If we have two charts, like in this example, in body paragraph 1, we can write about the first chart. In body paragraph 2, we will write about the second chart and give specific examples. And now I have an important note to make. This is not a criticism of the model answer. We will just look at ways to improve the model answer. Now let's take a moment to read the model answer. You will find a link in the description. We will now improve the answer sentence by sentence. I will use the following symbols. I will use a star to mark the original sentence that we are correcting. Crossed off. If a word or a sentence is crossed off, then it's incorrect or difficult to use in this form. If it's underlined, then it's not strictly incorrect, but could be better. So, are you ready to start? This is the introduction sentence of writing task 1. I have changed it quite significantly because we cannot use draw the conclusion in this context. Guys, I will pause sometimes. If it's too slow for you, just use the faster speed on the video. Thanks. Here, I've changed equal quantities to the same number or an equal number because are we talking about salt and sugar, equal quantities, uncountable things, or are we talking about girls and boys, countable people? We cannot use equal quantities of boys and girls. No, we can say the same number of boys and girls, an equal number. Guys, here we have academic writing. Are there really no words better than but to use in academic writing? You know at least five, but let me give you the most obvious. Yes, I think we can agree, however, is a much better word. In the same sentence, we have a dramatically larger number of girls liked reading. Well, that's not something that a native speaker will say. I don't think so. The word dramatically is a great word to use if you have a change over time. So, a line chart when in this year you had X and in that year you had Y. But here we don't have any change over time. We just have the preferences of boys and girls, what they do in their spare time. And it's not accurate to use the word dramatically in this context. So, what can we use instead of dramatically? Well, we can say that a far larger percentage of girls liked reading. 2% for boys, 21% for girls. Far larger. This is the corrected sentence, and I've added an extra sentence for you. Because remember, we need to make comparisons where relevant. In this context, we cannot say turning to. Turning to is a phrasal verb, meaning asking someone for help. That much simpler. We will just say from the first chart. And now, guys, what is the issue here? We can observe. Is that how scientific papers are written, how reports are written? Is there no better way of saying that? Well, of course, there is. And that better way is using the passive. Now, the passive is number one, more appropriate because we are writing a report, but also it gives you more points in terms of grammar. We can observe or the passive. Which one is better in terms of grammar? Of course, it can be observed is more complex, so it gives you more points. It shows the examiner you know the passive. Now, I'm not sure if you noticed, but we used the word prefer already in this writing. Prefer, preferred, preferable. Let's use another word. Let's use a different form. We will use the word preference. Which one sounds better? Boys prefer playing computer games, or boys have a strong preference for playing computer games. Try to avoid brackets. Also, there is a little issue with using the phrasal verb. It should be taking up, to take up, to start a new hobby. And here you can compare the original and the corrected sentence. We will move on. Please read this sentence. Do you notice anything missing? A word that is not there and it should be? If you are not sure, this is the word activity. Most popular leisure activity. And we should also have was instead of comes. And here is where things get really interesting. Let's have a look. Are we really talking about a third of boys playing basketball? Let's check again in the graph. Well, the graph says 26% of boys play basketball. Oh, is that a third? A third is 33%. Is there a number closer to 26 that we can use? Yes, sure, we can use 25. This is a nice number. How much is 25? 25 is the same as a quarter. Here we have 26%. So we can say just over a quarter. And now, guys, the question of questions. Male children. Is it correct or not? I have never heard a native speaker say male children. I know you are trying to paraphrase, but there are some situations in which we just can't paraphrase. We need to leave it as boys, but later on I will show you a great word that we can use instead of boys. But it's not a synonym, it's just better in a different context. Now you can take a look at the original sentence and at the correction. Okay, guys, we cannot use the passive this way. We cannot say that soccer is exercised by people. No, that's not correct. We used the word popular many times already. So let's try something different that gives us more variety in terms of grammar constructions. We can say there was less interest in an activity. And here is that word I told you about before. In this situation only, we can replace the word boys with respondents. Respondents are the people who responded to a survey, and it can definitely be used in this context. And here you can take a look at the original and the correction. As you see, I'm not saying anything about listening to music and reading. Why? Because we already included that information in the overview. Okay, guys, now you should know because I already told you for the first chart, what can we use instead of we can see? Of course, we can use the passive. And just like before, we will do some calculations. 27%. Usually, you should try to express any numbers in a different way. So don't just repeat the percentage. This one is a nice and easy one. Why? Because it's close again to 25. 25 is the same as 1 in 4. We have 27% here, so you can definitely replace that number with more than 1 in 4. And you can take a look at the correction here. There are really many good things in this sentence. Here, the writer is trying to compare. What can we use for comparison? We can use as adjective as, or not as adjective as. We can also use when compared to. Here we are trying to compare the number of boys and girls playing computer games. And one more time, we will perform some calculations. Yes, we won't use female children. No. Twice less. What can we do here? Well, we have 34% of boys playing computer games and 16% of girls. So we can say that roughly half of the girls play computer games when compared to boys. And a small issue here, we don't need to mention the chart again. We already mentioned it at the very beginning of our body paragraph, so there is no need for that. Here is the original and the correction. And I have to say, the original had many good things in it. There was an attempt at comparison. There was a relative clause, children who play computer games. So that is all very good in terms of grammar. We improved this sample by introducing the construction not as, interested as, which is a typical comparison structure. Okay, guys, we are almost finished. And maybe you are wondering, do you have to include absolutely everything on the diagram or chart in your writing? The answer is no. Why? Because the task usually asks you to summarize the main features and make comparisons where relevant. It doesn't say include all the information. But if you're not sure, you can count the number of words. If you have more than 150 words, you have probably answered the task in sufficient detail. Now, so far, we have 200 words. We don't really need more, but we can add one last sentence about netball and gymnastics for girls. So let's do that. If you think to yourself, why are we not talking about skateboarding, listening to music? We already mentioned them earlier on. Here also I've replaced activity with a hobby. You can see the full answer to writing task 1. And we have 213 words. We have addressed all parts of the question. Just one last remark, don't forget your indented paragraphs. Leave some space at the beginning of each paragraph. Okay, guys, I hope that was useful. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Thank you very much for watching and see you next time. Good luck with your IELTS. Bye bye.